Hello everybody, welcome back to Gelvin Valley on Farming Simulator 15. Just getting out to my machinery here. We were in the process of rolling. We have a rented roller, so I know my time is limited, so we're gonna continue on with that task and head on to our next field. Now, hey there. How come? That must be just a little glitch given where the tractor was sitting. Alright, we're going to head on down the road. I've been trying to think a little off camera as to what my next financial move in here is going to be. I have some money burning a hole in my pocket, and I've been looking at the map and looking at pieces of real estate, you know, like we're just driving by this one up here, Field 21. It's kind of in two pieces, so it'd be a little bit of a pain in the neck to farm. What a farmer's dream is a square patch that is flat. And this particular map does not have any square areas, or not that, yeah, pretty much no square. And it flat, are you kidding me? There's maybe a little bit of flatter area, but nothing in here that I would consider flat. Alright, we're going to get in this field here. We're going to roll it and then head on down the hill. I think these are the only two. Well, no, I guess we still have one way across the way. I should have done that one just outside of the dealership or the store before coming up in here. But, oh well, we'll come back and get that one. Kind of like I explained in my last video, I'm running a roller in here all because I saw a UK, oops, well that's easy to get twisted. I saw a UK farmer who did this, and this was the only thing that he did that I'm aware of following harvest, was to roll his field. And then I think he brought in a custom or a contractor to plant it for him behind the roller. So that's what we're doing, getting our fields ready for next planting. That's something else I need to take a look at. I don't think it'll be canola. I kind of planted canola in these fields that are further away from the main farm because they're harder to get to. And you know what? I just had a thought coming along here. Let's take care of something right now. I think this has a feature, activate destroying of grass. Is that what I want to do? Creating new fields. Okay, I'm going to say create new fields. And I'm going to try to smooth this up just a fuzz. I know, maybe you kind of got to hold your nose as you're watching this, because in real life you wouldn't do this with a roller. You would use a plow or something. I'm just trying to smooth this up a little bit to try to connect things or make it look a little better along this edge. Yeah, I don't know if I really improved anything or not, but I think I did something there. I better turn that off before yeah. It's sometimes helpful to have that to take care of your edges, make them look a little better, as if it really matters. Probably a little dab ought to be done there too. Can I make this work? Oh, yeah, it doesn't like doing that. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to try to back into here and see if I can take care of that. Oh my, that looks ghastly along this edge too. That old chicken is out in the field. I've never noticed that before. I don't think I've seen that chicken out here. That old rooster. This must be the area up here where if you run chickens in the map, you can have them Uh, must be areas for the eggs somewhere close by. I tend not to do much with chickens personally. I haven't. Um, yeah, just get that taken care of. There we go. Yeah, we'll make sure all the edges look all nice and neat and prim and proper. And I still have it activated. I gotta turn it on. Just let me hit the B and see if I can do something here. There. I think I turned it off. Let me make sure. Yep. Well, I know nobody will probably care about that, but it'll smooth it up just a little bit, and I don't know what difference that may make to things like Courseplay or Auto Combine, the mods that we're using here. Probably Courseplay, it'll make absolutely zero difference, but maybe it'll smooth it up a little for Auto Combine. I know sometimes it's confused with some of the edges and stops and starts and stutters. So, I don't know, maybe that'll help a little bit. But definitely probably wouldn't have been a roller that would do that kind of thing, but oh well. At the end of the day, it's just a game, right? So I need to figure out what I'm going to grow in here, and even as I say that, I'm remembering that kind of in the off season, if you will, I planted a whole bunch of trees. And what I can't remember is how long it takes trees to grow in FS15. So maybe I'll get to cut some of them down too. Earn a little bit more money. I'm also trying to see just how much risk I should take in terms of what kind of loan I need to take out. I have my eye on several pieces of real estate. I would love to have 16 here, but I don't think I'm going to get that one. It's nice and flat, but it's out of my price range. I think it's nearly $500,000. But I do have my eye on number 16 over here. And, well, it's flat up here on top, so maybe it gets hilly down over here. But I checked out the price on this, and it wasn't that bad at all. Matter of fact, it is similar in size to Field 16, and yet it is substantially less expensive, and that is pretty flat too. I imagine there's some hills kind of down over the side, so maybe it's a fluke. I'll just take a peek real quick if I get into this, where you can get into field management. This is field number 18 we're looking at. 147,150, whereas, and see, you can see the similar size here. Field number 16 is, yeah, knocking on the door of $500,000. So I am far more interested in paying way less for this one over here. So I kind of, like I say, have my eye on that at 150,000. Oh yes, keyboard binding thing. What I don't know is having the Bank of Hagenstedt mod, does that make field prices dynamic? For all I know, there's a sale going on that particular field, and maybe if I check it when I'm done rolling, the price will have increased. I just don't know. So I kind of wrote down a few things. There's a couple other properties too I'm interested in looking at, and all told, I think with the ones that I was interested in considering, it's 400 some $1,000. So that might be doable. I already have 80,000 in the bank. If I borrowed $500,000, bought the properties that I'm interested in, the 80,000 would help me get them planted, hopefully, and ready to go, and hopefully tide me over until harvest. And maybe too, I'd also like to get. I'm thinking about sheep. Oops, what did I do? I gotta because I already have the equipment, and kind of off camera, if you will, I looked for a place to find some free grass. And I found it, but wow, is it in a hard to reach place that isn't going to be very fun to get to, uh, but but at least it's going to be free. So I also I don't know what others think here. It was just a thought that came to mind. I went over and looked at the area. Wow, that just does not like adhering to the ground, does it? If I can get that on the edge so I can satisfy my OCD. I went over to where the sheep go, and their area looks like some of the fields in here. You know, one premise the map author had is he wanted grass fields in the area, but he wanted it known. So in other words, you gotta, if you want to do arable, you gotta work. Even if you want grass, you're gonna have to work because it's just green on the bottom. There's no grass to cut. And the premise, as I understand it, was the fields were grazed out. So the player was gonna, there'd be a little grass on the edge, but not much. And the player would have to do a bunch of plowing, replant, whatever, to get grass reestablished or other arable crops. Well, it's the same. I think it was similar in this pasture here for the cattle, and it's similar over by the sheep. It looks pretty bare. So one thought I had, although admittedly the game wouldn't require it, I don't have to do this. I was thinking of taking some equipment over there and planting a pasture for the sheep, and maybe I could even harvest some hay off of the area that I plant grass to, you know, for the sake of the sheep. Although I'd like to use it as a pasture over there too, so maybe I won't do that. Probably need to put grass in another field close by, and I don't know how much grass sheep are gonna take, really. I'm sure there's some data on it somewhere, and I can run some math and figure out just how much, you know, would be needed. I think sometimes it's surprising just how little is actually needed for to maintain them. So maybe with some, I'll borrow enough money to get a few sheep about the place, and who knows, I may get myself so far gone in debt that I'll have a dickens of a time getting out of it or paying the loan off. I can't remember anymore just how big the loan was that I initially took on when I started farming in here. I think I've mentioned, you know, using the Bank of Haggenstedt mod. I was doing some experimenting with it. I thought it would let me take multiple loans out. Turns out, nope, it only lets you take one at a time. So I think I ended up getting a small loan, and I'd already done too much to reverse course by the time I figured out, you know, what I'd done wrong. So next time when I borrow money out of there, it's going to be for a much larger loan, if it'll let me, and I think it will. So I can buy everything that I want to buy and then get the assets, you know, that I want to have on the farm. I don't know that I'll beef up my equipment contingent. You know, really, even though it seems like we have a lot of fields in here and have a lot going on, at the end of the day, these are really some pretty small fields. You know, like this one here. This one here looks pretty typical. Actually, it's not a field. This one is the old pasture. And if I ever do get cattle, by the way, I'm going to put this back to grass. You know, this is where they would be roaming out here. But it's really not that large of a field. And this is the size of field that we primarily have. So I think our existing equipment contingent would be able to handle pretty much any of the additional real estate that I have without having to, or that I'm looking at getting without having to get new equipment. But I don't know. You know, as the fields get bigger, it takes longer, so maybe for the sake of you, the viewer, I need to just get knuckle down and get larger equipment so I get through the fields quicker. It is what it is. What can I say? I think eventually too I'd like to get some hogs. You know, I have an uncle who for many years was a hog farmer. Maybe I've described it before. I'd love to talk more about what he had going on. You know, if I ever do get hogs in here. Thing I don't know is, you know, back in FS15, I played it quite a lot, but I don't remember. I did some with the sheep. I did some with the regular cattle, if you will, which come with a base game. I think I did a dab with chickens, but some of the other things, you know, the beef cattle or having pigs or some of these things, I never did anything with. So I know there's kind of a learning curve for me to figure it out, and I, you know, if it's going to be pigs, I need to kind of figure out what that looks like and what all I need to do, what kind of feed they're going to need, and that kind of stuff. So I got me some homework to do to figure that out, but I'll work on it. So for the moment, I'm just going to keep working on these fields, rolling and following harvest, and get them all set up and ready to go for the next planting. You know, and at some point, I think I've been using rapid growth. I think that's a setting I have in here. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, fast plant growth. So I guess usually I would have it on slow. Probably in most of the playing that I did before, the only reason I had it on fast in here was flat out desperation. You know, if you've survived this long, you may remember the previous episodes. I was routinely underwater, just in my cash. That's why I'm so tickled. I'm over 80,000. It just feels good having that in the bank. But I've played more time in the year on this map, which is really tough, uh, with negative cash than I have positive. And I think in real life, I don't know of a bank that would tolerate that. The way I kind of look at it in the pretend world, if you will, is there's a lot of farms that have, in their banking arrangements, they'll have what's called a line of credit, where they can borrow money to plant their crops, fertilize them, apply chemicals, whatever, and then they pay interest on that debt. And when they harvest their crops, they pay it all off. Oops, looks like I missed a spot. And so that's kind of how I look at it here. And I think even the Bank of Against at Mod, when it notices that we have negative cash, I believe it charges interest. So I'm not getting away scot-free. But it's still nice to have money in the bank. That pleases me well. And so yeah, so there's going to be a few big changes coming to our humble little farm here as soon as I get all the fields prepared and ready for planting. And maybe at some point in here I will turn the uh, make it slower growth or normal growth, but really fast growth was helpful just to get another crop ready to go. Basically, it went so blooming fast that the day after you planted it, it was already ready to harvest. That's how quick it goes. So there really isn't any time to do anything else except roll on in with the harvester. All right, got this field knocked out. Now we'll head on to the next. See if I can sneak out the gate here. Head on down the hill. The thing I am trying to keep some little bit of realism on is, and honestly, I didn't do this back in the day when I played Farm Sim 15. I didn't have this approach, but ever since being exposed to the Seasons mod that came in Farm Sim 17, that kind of has changed the way I look at it even in here. What I would do previously in Farming Sim 15 is, frankly, I work myself to the bone, if I can put it that way. When a field was harvested, and let's say I had 10 fields, and if I started harvesting field number one, and then when I finished, I moved on to field number two, I would immediately start tilling the field in field number one and bring in a planter. Just would take care of it immediately, just to get another crop in the ground, get things moving. And so invariably, by the time I was done harvesting my 10th field, field number one would be ready to harvest already. And somewhere in there, I try to take care of the fertilizer and all that. Well, that just isn't realistic, of course, or close to real life. So I really appreciated, the introduction of the seasons mod and what they tried to do. And once that was there, you know, I uh, I basically I don't play farming sim without seasons in it. So whether it's 17 or 19, and I realize what it does is it extends the gameplay or time. Some people they want to get in, get out, get a harvest in, plant another one. Fine and dandy if that's what you want to do. But I really like having the seasons. It slows the whole thing down. I know one save that I had. I think I put it. You could choose the number of days per season, number of in-game days, and I think it was in threes. 3, 6, 9, and so forth. I think there's one save that I have stored somewhere where I was on either 9 or 12 days saves because there was just so much to do and there was so much real estate to cover, that time was needed to make sure I took care of everything I needed to take care of. But but yeah, it means you can't just churn and burn and just have many more crops. And I guess that's what's so great about this game. Everybody gets something a little bit different out of it, and our styles of playing it are different. I mean, one of the things I've put in here that you all have had to suffer through watching is dealing with rocks, and part of it is because, well, that's what I had to deal with on the farms, that I was part of growing up or worked on. We had a lot of rocks, so, well, by George, there's going to be rocks in here, and we're going to have to deal with them. So that just is what it is. But in here, because of the impact of seasons, I have felt compelled to try to have a type of seasons in here, although it isn't really visible. So right now, I'm in the mode of rolling all the fields. So I'm going from field to field, and everybody's seen me do the same thing with planting, with harvesting, baling, everything else that I do in here. It's I treat the farm as a whole as if there are seasons. So when I get more real estate in here, it's gonna be tougher to do it. I think at one point I could do almost everything in a single day. I look at the time here, it says it's 12:30, and I don't know, maybe by the end of the day. I think I rented this roller for 3 hours. Don't recall exactly. Maybe by the time the day's over, I'll be through all the fields. Um, yeah, probably shouldn't take that long. Goodness. And then so we'll go through another day, and then maybe the following day I can plant. But probably more likely when I get to unrolling, I kind of got the cart ahead of the horse, I think, a little bit. I should have saved this for later. Um, I need to go buy some more real estate, so probably when I get to with the rolling, I'm going to buy the fields, and all those fields are going to need some work. I'm going to need to rent a chisel plow and take them apart. So, I mean, there's going to be just some field work to do, and I'm going to need this particular roller again because those fields will need to be rolled. There'll be rocks. It'll be all sorts of fun for me. So, who knows what all's going to happen on here between the ad and the sheep, and maybe that's even taking too much on. I don't know. And of course, I never know what anybody's interested in seeing when they come and look at my humble videos. So Maybe you'd rather see something else anyhow. You know, one thing this map doesn't have in it, which a lot of the FS15 maps had, is a train. So far as I'm aware, there's no train anywhere that I've seen, and so that's one thing, you know, that isn't in this map that's in others. Although I'm not even sure why I mentioned that here. Maybe I was just thinking of things to do in between planting crops and what have you. Alright, knock this one out. Let's bring up our roller, and we are going to head up the hill. You know, I kind of have a rhythm here, a route, if you will, that I go from field to field to field based on the fields that I have, and it's going to get totally changed once I throw some new fields in the mix. The last time I purchased some more fields, I think I sold a couple too. I don't think I'll sell any this time. I like the fields I have, and maybe at some point, you know, you look at a field like this, it's on a slope, it's tough to farm. Maybe at some point I'll ditch it for some of the better real estate as I can afford it. But on the other hand, I don't know. I also still very much like my hillside combine and watching it work. You know, this is a field where you really get to see what it does and what it's capable of. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll keep it. But whatever it is, I'm going to get it rolled at least so we can get it ready. I maybe should have kept that big tractor so I could pull some hills in here. Look at that. What does it take to stop it from swinging like a pendulum? You know, it makes me wonder. Oh, you know what it is. I remember now. You know, this series is extended over a period of time, and I sometimes forget what I've done. That's right. I did a bunch of modding work on this particular roller, and I seem to recall I changed its weight because it was so bloomin' heavy. I couldn't pull it up the hill. So yeah, that's probably why it isn't sticking to the ground as nicely as it previously did. So, but at least I can pull it up the hill with this little tractor. But I think that's realistic. In real life, this tractor should be more than capable of pulling a roller that looks like this, even up hills. Well, it probably would have a time of it going up the hills, but it still should be able to do it, which it now can. It's just unfortunate it doesn't stick to the ground quite as easily as I would like. But you know what? It's getting the job done, so I'm not going to complain too bad. It's just incredibly steep in here, and I love it. I don't know if we would be caught dead farming a slope like this in real life, especially as an arable field. My goodness, I just think of rainfall hitting this field and carrying all your topsoil down to the bottom. I know it can be done, but probably if I really wanted to do this more realistically, maybe this is a field that I shouldn't roll or till at all. If I no-till any field, maybe it ought to be this one here. You know, just to leave all those roots in the soil undisturbed and plant a new one so you're not tilling it up and you're not losing so much topsoil. Or maybe you could do it in strips. Yeah, I don't know what all the tricks the farmers have had over the years to try to do this. I know we've probably all seen pictures from China where you see those terraces that they have farming rice or whatever, even with bodies of water up on those, you know, which rice needs for when you do it, and they somehow figure out a way to do it on a slope, but wow, it looks costly to set all that up and difficult to manage. So I don't know, maybe in real life a farmer would terrace this too. I know I've seen that done before. on some fields, but not particularly this one. And you know, I see the old timer winding its way down. I can't hardly believe there's been another half-hour episode that's gone by here on my humble farm in Gelvin Valley. But I think we're basically gonna have to call the episode. So thank you so much for, and I really mean that, for taking time from your busy day to stop by here and listen to me ramble on about this, that, and the other. I hope you can tell just by listening. I mean, I do this as a hobby, uh, playing the game, and I really enjoy it. I know I've said before, I don't bore very easily, and I've just always enjoyed agriculture. I'm not able to do it in real life, so this is probably the closest I'll ever get. So, thanks for coming along for the ride, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.